Yay. All right, all right, all right. So, guys, I wanted to share somebody really special with you, somebody that I've known for a little bit now. And her name is Melissa Fox. Look at that smile. I love it. She is a healthcare executive, and she spent a lot of her career working with underserved populations and in helping to reduce health disparities. And today we want to talk about the impact of stress on your physical health. And Melissa has recently come out with a book that I just finished reading, and it's fabulous. There it is. So I wanted to just take a few minutes and talk to her about that and see, just to share the story, because I believe that what she is saying here is really, 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 really important. So Melissa, you are an amazing woman. I've been working with you for a little while now, and you really, like, I'm not just saying that, like, I was so excited when I started scheduling these interviews out, and you were one of the first people that I thought of. She's accomplished so much professionally, and now getting to know her a little bit personally. So I think the first question I want to ask is, what have you experienced personally, or maybe it's in your career, that led you to write this book?
Well, first, let me just say thank you, Jen, for having me on. This is such an honor. And everybody, as much as she's saying about me, she's absolutely the most. I mean, she's amazing. She is a large part of why I'm here today, and one of the things I'm going to touch on. So thank you very much for having me on. So just in terms of my personal story, what made me write the book, it's kind of been percolating for a while in different ways, not in like a real solid form, but just thoughts and coming across all the things that I experienced in my professional career and hearing the same disparities over and over again and realizing that it had been going on for generations. I could see it within my own family. So it was kind of out there for a while, Jen. And then I ran into my own experience with confronting these chronic illnesses. And I mentioned in the book, and this is where Jen comes in, everybody, because I was truly at a point where I was, and I'm going to be real vulnerable here. And I shared this in the book. I was scared, and I was like, wait a minute, what's happening? I'm youngish. I was young, and why is this starting to? I feel like my body started to break down, and then just thinking about all the things that I had been doing up until that point, multitasking, family, work, personal stuff that I was involved in. So anyway, my doctor told me that I was, having something going on. And I said, wait a minute, there has to be something else. There has to be another option here. I can't be going down this path. And so someone referred me to Jen, actually. And she asked me some of the most amazing questions. And those questions were really about my history and my experiences. Sorry so much for that. And my experiences. And so it woke me up, because I realized that my traumas and the things that I experienced in my lifetime were contributing to my really being in this situation. So I'm sorry, Jen,
He wants to participate. He has a voice that wants to be heard.
Live TV, everybody. Chloe. So anyway, what happened was I realized, let me start to really document my experience and document what was happening with me. But then as I was doing that, I realized that this was bigger than me. This was bigger than what I was feeling. This was bigger than what I was experiencing. And I thought back to some of the women in my family who were also battling their own chronic illnesses. And I have this one aunt in particular who basically took care of everyone. And I used to think when I was little that, like, how does she do all of this at once? How is she balancing all this? She's so strong. And I thought back about her, and right now her body has broken down in so many different ways. So I said, you know what? I want to take this and help to inform other women, especially Black women, because we tend to carry the whole strength thing as this badge of honor when it actually is breaking our bodies down in so many different ways. So I said, let me just go to the root. Where did this begin? Let's really talk about what created the context for where we are right now. And so take this historical journey, but then make it truly real in terms of what is impacting us right now and what's going on in the present. So in terms of why I wrote the book, disregarding all the barking that was going on right now in the background, but why it was a very, very real, personal, and scary experience that really crystallized everything that had been going on around me and in my family and in the women that I knew for so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that too. With taking care of yourself isn't a sign of weakness in any
Right.
way. And you talk about this a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
how culturally that it has been kind of ingrained, to feel that way, and that's not
Mm-hmm.
true. Understanding your value and your worth, right? And how
Right.
and how important it is for you to show up in this world as exactly who you are.
Yes. Yes.
It's huge because no one
Mm-hmm.
else can bring that to the table but you.
That's
And
right.
when you don't show up and when I don't show up, the world misses a lot, right?
Right.
Because
That's right.
we're piece, it's huge. So I'm glad that you brought that up because, I work with a lot of women in general. I do work with Black women as well, like yourself. And it's something that, it's definitely an issue, is understanding that it's not a sign of weakness to take
Right.
that time and set time aside. You're no less strong,
That's
right?
right. That's right. And it's hard though, if you carry that and if you truly have been told for years that that's what you are supposed to be, that is something that's a badge of honor. If you're feeling exhausted and tired, that's what you're supposed to feel. No, it's not. You're not supposed to feel that. You're not supposed to feel the pain of your past traumas and then have that layered on top of the stressors that you're carrying today. No. And the journey that we went through together, Jen, and that we're still going through together, that you're helping me with, is to understand that differently, and so much better than I had in the past, and being able to share that with other women. One of the things that we address in the book, or that I address in the book, is to, how to begin your own healing. What does that process look like? And the first step is to lay your burdens down, is what I'm basically saying. Basically take the things off, that you shake it off, like just kind of start over. And the reason why that's so important is because that's what I had to do when we had our conversations. And you remember there were a couple of times I was in tears and having to confront some things and being very vulnerable in a way that I hadn't, and exposed and really confronting some things in myself. So I had to shake these things off and just like take that weight off. So then I could then be reintroduced to myself in a different way and reintroduced to my healing in a different way. So it's a process.
Mm-hmm. And giving yourself that permission, that first step, oh my God,
Yes.
is huge.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you believe are some of the most important considerations when it comes to reducing the impacts of trauma and stress on your health?
So the first thing is to recognize it and to be courageous about confronting it. And what I mean by that is, like I mentioned, there's some things that are causing trauma in our lives, and have caused trauma in our lives, especially when we're talking about the lives of Black women, that we just carry as, okay, that's just life, but it's not. And so you have to take a different view of it. You have to take a different view of what it's doing to you, what it's doing to your body. And then once you do that, then it opens up so many other things. Like, I'm doing Tai Chi. That is never something, and just laughing. And anybody who knows me and who's been around me knows that is not ever something I would have done. And I love doing it. So I opened myself up to a way to create this different environment, But to do that, I had to go to a place where I realized what these past traumas, these current traumas and stressors were doing to me. And once I kind of acknowledged that and tried to be courageous as I could with that, then that allowed me to say, okay, so then what do I now need to do? And then who do I need to connect with to do it? What resources do I need to build so that I can now grow towards healing? But the first thing is to be able to confront that. And it sounds easy. And I know a lot of you ladies watching this are probably knowing the same thing and doing the same thing that I have. I don't have time for that. That's silly. Why in the world would I do that? I'm fine. And it's like, we're fine until we're not fine. We're fine until we get that call from the doctor that says, guess what? You have chronic illness A, B, C, or D. We're fine with eating what we're eating until we find out that we're putting these poisons into our body that are breaking us down and not allowing us to be strong enough to confront the stresses that we're confronting. So we're fine until we're not. And so why not take the time to heal in a way that allows you to get ahead of that? And that's a lot of what, I'm trying to talk about in The Weapon Formed. In addition to understanding the context and with Black women, this intersectionality of racism and sexism that has created this really poisonous and toxic mix that folks are operating within. But then that doesn't have to be the end of the story. It doesn't. You now can write your own next chapter, and that's your healing. That's about your healing, and then how do you then move forward with that healing? But the first step is to acknowledge it and understand what it's doing to you.
Yeah. And we see this a lot with, it's easy because we often can recognize it when we look outside of ourselves, right? So when we think of, let's put it in context of animals, right? That's how they learn to survive. They've learned to fear humans, or they've learned to fear other predators, right? And that is ingrained in their cell signaling. And then that's passed down generationally, so that now the next generations of that same species know, okay, that's a predator, that's not safe, right? So we as humans, that happens to us too. So I love that you went into the history of how you are where you are now, and because that's important to understand, right?
It has to be
printed in you generationally, and not something that you can just flick a switch on and just wash away. But I love how you totally drive home over and over and over again. That's not the end of the story.
That's right. That's right. And it doesn't have to be. And I think that, it's funny, even when you talk to people, they're like, well, it's in my family. This is just a chronic illness, it's just in my family. Well, why is that? Why is that something in your family? Well, we're passing down, we're not just passing down or, having in our family just the DNA, which includes trauma, but we're also passing down habits, and we're sharing habits, and we're sharing norms. So if those habits and norms include either eating a certain way, absorbing certain messages that are saying that stress is okay and trauma is okay, whatever those things are, understand that those things, they can be undone, they can be interrupted, not undone, but they can be interrupted so that you can move forward differently. Absolutely.
Yeah, we have the ability to heal all of those trauma pathways, right? Acknowledging that they're there so that we understand. Because you can't just, affirmations are very important. I don't want to belittle them in any way, but just slapping an affirmation on it when you haven't taken the time to understand that trauma isn't going to be effective in the same way as when you take your whole mind, body, soul along that journey to acknowledge it, recognize it, sit with it. I understand, yes, that was our experience, and today I'm choosing a different path, right?
Right, that's right. I mean, it's amazing. Every time I talk about this, it reminds me of how important, it reminds me of, I wish I would have started sooner.
Yeah.
I mean, everything happens for a reason, so it's fine. But, how much more healthy could I have been if I had started this sooner? Could I have introduced some things to friends and family and, my daughters differently sooner? So it's humbling to be in this space. And and you and I talked about this before, what you're doing and the message that you have for folks and for people, and what you gave to me is generational. I mean, it affects generations. I mean, if someone's able to change and adopt a healing and looking at themselves in a different way, it begins to ripple and affect everything and everyone around them. And so I don't take that lightly, and I'm humbled that anybody who reads this book is doing so. But it's powerful, and it's powerful because of all of the damage that has been done. And so we have to figure out a way and the power and the strength to be able to, confront, face it, and say, I'm going to change this. And it's okay. And it's okay to talk differently about healing. It's okay to talk differently about, yeah, I do Tai Chi. Yeah, so what? That's what I do. I'll lay there and have my app on to help teach me how to breathe. I
Yeah.
told people before, I was telling somebody, this is a while ago. I said, yeah, I'm doing these breathing and practicing breathing because we don't breathe properly. They're like, what are you talking about? You can breathe.
What have you been doing all your life then?
But I said, you don't realize that when you're stressed and we got a lot of stuff on, you're actually taking much shallower breaths. And so your body needs this. So, you have to practice breathing. And, after almost passing out the first few times I tried it, because I think I was doing it wrong, but I mean, getting to the point where you're actually breathing and taking a moment for that is amazing. And you feel so much better. So, to share as much as I can, and it's humbling to be able to even try to do that with people.
Yeah. And with the breath work, I mean, that there was one quote that I read, and it said, the more you train, the less you believe in war, thinking of like a warrior, right? So
Yeah.
training your breath, right? And how to respond in those situations. And when you do it enough and you keep doing it, same thing with the Tai Chi, then you start to notice your response to things that are stressful in life, because we all live in this world, right? It's going to happen. You start to notice that your responses to those things change subconsciously.
Yes.
You don't even have to work at it anymore, because you trained yourself and you prepared yourself to handle that in a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Because I mean, with everything that I have going on, I have noticed that things that used to send me into orbit don't anymore. They absolutely, now part of that part of it probably is just my shift in thinking as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, as I've learned about what the healing and how it's important for me and my body, I'm not going to let that stuff get to me. I'm not going to carry that. And then the other piece is, though, changing parts of me that allow me to respond differently. Because you're right, there's going to be stressors, there are going to be things going on. But now I know I need to either separate myself, I need to make sure that I'm breathing. I have to make sure that I'm breathing properly and getting the breath, but then finding that space. And if that night I need to do a different type of self-care, then I will do that. That night, if that means no work tonight, then I don't work and I find something that allows me to get into a peaceful place. But all of those things, we have to be okay with saying that this is the right way to be, and not saying, well, I can't do that because I can't afford to do that, or that's not my life to do that. There are ways that we can find to employ self-care if we want to, and if we make that a priority. And we have to understand that making that a priority is as important as eating. It's as important as breathing. It's as important as anything else that we do, because we have one body, one life. And so we want to make sure that we're getting the most out of that as we can.
Yeah, definitely. And when you value something enough, you don't have to think twice about it, right?
Right.
We value that cup of coffee in the morning. We don't think twice about what the cup of coffee costs. We don't think about the time it takes to make it, or that we have to clean out the coffee maker, or that we have to wash. We don't consider any of that, because the value's there, right? And when it comes to us and our self-care, when the worth and when we understand all of that, and we place the value where it belongs, we don't have to we no longer have to juggle with those struggles anymore. Well, what does it cost? How much time is good? It doesn't matter, because the time is worth it.
That's right. And just for a second, I would love to get your input on this as well. One of the things that I try to address in the book is, why don't we value it? Like, especially as women and as Black women, because that's where the book is focused. Why haven't we historically valued it, or we valued other people's time, other people's needs, and then the book I actually go into, because there's a historical context to it. And in general, so we don't value ourselves as much. And I think we're here now to say, as part of this movement, yeah, I am important. My body is important. My mind is important. What I'm putting into my body and in my mind are important. And so I am going to value that. And, people just tend to set, especially as women, we set that aside for the good of everything else, for the good of everyone else around us. Yes, you need my time and my energy and my blood and my, everything about me. Then yes, here, take it all. But no, we're not going to do that anymore. There needs to be I am going to invest in me. I am going to invest in my health in a way that makes sense. And so, I mean, I know you see that all the time too, right? Where folks are kind of make it secondary.
Oh yeah, all that. Well, in order to be a good, I believe that there was a large part. My life raising my children would have been completely different if I would have understood these things then.
Right.
Just like you said, you know, that what if I would have started this sooner? You know,
Yeah, yeah.
you were, you know, programmed to believe that in order to be a good mom, in order to be a good wife, you had to be exhausted and you had to come absolutely last, and
That's right.
everything and everybody else came first,
Yes,
right?
yes, that's right.
And that's not true. You know, the what you're, when you think back, and I had boys, so it's a tad bit different, not too much, but you had girls. So, you know, what that programmed into their subconscious, we taught them to be last. In order to be good, you have, in order to be
That's right.
kind, in order to love others, you have to be last. And that was
Right.
so off.
That's it. That's right. And exactly, and we pass that down, right? We pass that
Yes.
on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, the time ends now. I mean,
That's right.
you can start.
That's right. That's why people need to get your book and read it and understand that. It's huge. So what have you done? I know you talked a little bit about the Tai Chi, and what have you done to reduce your own risk, and how has that process affected you?
Oh my gosh, this is now, it's been a process. So I want to be clear with everyone. You know, I am probably the poster child for overdoing, overworking. Anyone who knows me can tell you that.
You're the
So
overachiever, right?
so it has absolutely been a process. So I'm with you, sisters out there. I'm with you, raising kids, working till midnight, doing everything that's going on in the community. Somebody asked for it. So I'm absolutely with you. So it's been a process for me. And the things that I have done through that process were to find what works for me. So there's some different categories. So one is how I eat. So there's a plan. Jen knows I was on this plan with Jen, lost 30 something pounds. I'm so proud of that. So cool with that. And it wasn't just about dieting though, because the weight hasn't come back. You know, it's just how I eat now. So full disclosure though, I slipped today. I had some butterfly shrimp. So I'm probably going to regret it later. But I know.
We won't talk about that.
It was part of my self-care today. That's it. I'm not going to do it. Okay, so full disclosure. But anyway, but for the most part, I'm highly conscious of what I put into my body. I'm highly conscious of drinking my water. If I don't get enough water every day, you know, so that was one thing. So one category is how I eat and what I'm putting into my body so I can feel better about myself, etc. Because I realized that when I was feeling better about myself and just feeling better, then I kind of approach things differently. So that was one part. The other part was finding peace and finding my peace even within all the craziness that was going on. And that could include saying no sometimes. That could include saying, these are my boundaries, and I'm not, and those boundaries might mean that I can't do any more than this. And that even came with my children. I would say, well, this is what I'm going to do, and here's what I'm not going to do. And that was a process because as moms, any of the moms on the line, or if you're, you know, you got nieces, nephews that you're raising, whatever it is, guardians, you understand what I'm saying. It's very hard to say no, you know, for certain things. But I had to put that up because otherwise there was no part of me that was mine. So being able to say no, so these boundaries, establishing those, saying what I felt, and being clear with people in a vulnerable way or however I had to do it. No, this is what works for me and this is what doesn't. So it's been a process, but it's really been those categories, how, you know, what I'm putting into my body, but then being able to find my peace in a way that works for me. And so that's what I built. And then some things work and some things don't. And I realize that I have to correct sometimes, or sometimes I have to invest a little bit more in the peace side. Or like today where I slipped and did the butterfly shrimp, I might have to really pay for that later, you know, or drink a whole lot more water and flush my system out, because, you know, I'm going to feel pretty bad about it. But it's okay. And I don't beat myself up about it. I just kind of start back over. So those are the things that I'm doing, Jen. I mean, really, you know, those categories, but the peace part for me is huge because the high blood pressure and all that other stuff, I don't want to die from that. I don't want to die because, you know, I am overworking, overstressing, and over traumatizing myself. So that peace part is important.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, you know, it's fun. We just finished up a book club called The Gap in the Game. And it talks about how you measure success, right? And how that makes a big difference in how we perceive things. So, and what I liked is that it really highlights that, you know, that idea of perfection that we have, right? That, you know, this is the perfect model, you know, that we're trying to achieve. Well, you know, on your health journey, right? If you would have looked, you know, go back a year, 2 years, you would have thought, hey, if I could only get here, that would be great, right? And then you get there, and then it's like, oh no, I want to get there, and I want to get there. So that to hold yourself to the idea of perfection is kind of is cheating ourselves, right? Because that's an ideal that's always growing. As we grow, that ideal grows, right? Because now we have new goals and we want to achieve more because that the taste of that, right? So measuring from where we came and not against the ideal is huge. You know, the fact that you can sit there and recognize that, hey, this butterfly shrimp, you know, it was the best choice that I could make at the time. So that was the choice that I made. I understand the repercussions. I'm going to work with my body to help it through that situation. And then the grace and the mercy there, and then let it go. That's it. That's all it is. Right? Let it go, because we're not measuring against the idea of perfection. You're never going to achieve it. And hopefully, if you're growing in any journey, that what you used to think of as perfect is also growing, right? Like, I'm not where I would love to be, and I'm always looking for ways to improve and do more. And how can I learn more? And how can I expand in this area, right? So measuring yourself from where you came, and Melissa, you came so far.
Yes, thank you.
Just feel that, because you did. I mean, you know, the struggles, you know, you talk about how you've improved your diet. I don't care about that butterfly shrimp you ate today, because I know where you came from. And that's what I'm measuring against. That's what I see. I see where you came from, and I see all you've invested in yourself and your health. But you haven't, that hasn't it just been, it's not a selfish thing, like you did it just for you. It's helped your relationship. And I think I can share this, you know, I don't want to speak for you, but you know, you've said how it's helped your relationship in all ways, with your kids and your husband. And it changes, like you said, it changes how you show up. And so I want to thank you for all the work that you've done and how far you've come.
Thank you so much. I mean, you know, you were definitely such an amazing cheerleader and champion to have in my corner. And, you know, I just hope, and you're right, as we've gone through this journey together, I want more women to know. I want more women to hear about it and to realize that it is achievable. It's not something that has to be a foregone conclusion that you were beat down, burnt out. You know, that's not a badge of honor to carry. It's not something that you want to break your back on, you know. And if you know, people like me can do it, I mean, we can all do it. And it may look a little bit different. And I love what you said, Jen, about perfection and not holding ourselves to some unrealistic, you know, goal of perfection, whatever that is. Just really be the best for you that you can be, and really try to reduce the amount of stress and hurt that you had in your life, and understand that we all bring our different things to the table. And, you know, you and I have talked about some different things that I brought to the table, and trying to find my healing and finding my peace. And so bringing that and understanding that you have that, and then working on healing that even as you're continuing to grow is where we really need to be. So, no, I mean, you know, thank you for thanking me, but I'm really glad that there are people like you who are out here also, you know, doing the work and helping us to have the framework to operate within. Because you all may not know, because you haven't read the book, but I actually mentioned Jen in the book without saying her name. So, because I didn't have permission to say her name, actually, I didn't ask, so she didn't say no. But I mean, it was just because I had to just talk about it, because that was a pivotal point in, for me, my healing journey. So, you know, finding a champion and a partner, that is really important.
Yes. And Michelle or Melissa, I don't know why I keep calling it, because you know what, the section that I read.
Oh, Michelle. I have two Michelles in there. It is, yes.
You do. So I keep thinking that was one of the parts that I just read. Melissa, you talk about resources. So your website has some great resources on it. So you can go to melissafoxauthor.com, and also on Instagram at melissafoxauthor. And Melissa is with one L, guys. So
one L.
And her website is also melissafoxauthor.com. And she has on there some great tools, like you call it, it's called the It's a Survey, right? Am I saying that right?
Yes. Yep. ITSA, absolutely. And it's the intersectionality trauma and stress assessment. It's a great tool.
Yes. So that's a great tool. Obviously, her book is a great tool. And she has been on Instagram more and more. I love seeing your face on there when you pop up. So follow her, and I hope that you guys get her book, because it really is so powerful. And share it, give it to other women that you know, women that you see might be struggling in that area, or might be feeling guilty about placing value on themselves and their self-care, because this might be what they need
Yeah,
to support them and help them to get to that next level. So thank you for
absolutely.
being here.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for hearing me even through my dog's crazy barking. And it's funny because I put one of the dogs out because I was like, well, the little one, she'll be quiet. No, he wasn't. So pardon me for that part of it, but it's live. That's what you get.
That's what you get.
Thank you, Jen.
And that's quite all right. All right, guys, check out all her websites, follow her on Instagram. Thank you so much. And I'll be seeing you soon.
Yes.
Bye, guys.